enthusiast. Today I'm going to do a quick little tech video on how to remove the front panel controls from your Vectrex. These are the little rotary controls and push buttons that are on the front. So go ahead and get your Vectrex, find some good lighting if you can, and maybe even lay it on its back like I've done right now so you can see them. So, of course, first you're going to have to remove the Vectrex controller panel from the front to expose the two controls that are here. If you've never seen these before, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the controller cable. They're the Vectrex power volume switch, which is a rotary control, and the Vectrex reset button, which is a push button. So in order to remove these two controls, at least for the first control, the rotary switch, just pull on it. Pull it straight out. You might see that this one in particular happens to be a little cracked right now. It's probably because someone didn't pull it out straight. When you pull it off, you might also find that a sleeve is left in place. Let me see if the sleeve's in place on this one. Now this one came out with it. There's a little metal sleeve that's inside of each control. You might be able to see it right now. It has a flat edge to it. It mates up with the flat edge of the rotary switch itself. Okay, to remove the reset switch knob or the reset switch button, it's a rotation in a counterclockwise direction. So just rotate it counterclockwise till it comes off. So this one's pretty loose. I can do it with my fingers. Someone's had it off before. If you can't get yours off, or if you find it's too hard to turn with your fingertips, get something like a set of pliers with some vinyl tape over the top of the jaws to protect the plastic from being marred. Use that to slowly back it off. Okay, slow is the main thing here. And why? Well, when you turn it over, you'll see that most Vectrex have had a little bit of thread compound, or even, I would say this is glue, a little bit of glue, excuse me, that is used to hold the knob into place. Obviously, you didn't want your kids to take this off and swallow it, especially the little ones who had the strength to take off a knob or a button without having any glue on it. So they applied a little bit to hold it into place. You'll see here's the actuator stem itself that it's screwed into. Underneath this glue is a little tiny screw that is used to screw this back in. Alright, so if you're using a button that's been 3D printed from one of the designs, or a control that's been 3D printed from one of the designs, post it up on Thingiverse. And thank you very much, Richard Hutchinson, the same guy who brought us the Vec Multi. He also put a couple of his designs out on Thingiverse under the user ID of Mindstorm. Okay, and here's a couple of sample printouts of those controls. So you might notice one of them has a little bit different look on the button, and I'll explain that in a minute. If you print this out, especially if you print it out in PLA, you'll have to add a 3.6% size to it. At least this is what I found with my printer. So you'll see there's a flat edge already put into the design itself, and that mates up with the control. Just put it on. Now rotate the edge till you find it, or made it up purposely in the beginning. It just slides right on. Works really well for control. As far as the buttons go, there's two different styles you'll see here. The button that most people will download is probably the one that you see on the left, and it's the one that has that little nipple or that little stem in the inside. It's used in place of the screw to hold the button in. It just provides just enough friction to hold the button into place. The other one is useful in a couple other ways I'll explain in a moment. So this one you'll just take, as long as it's appropriately sized, print it out. You might have to print out more than once. Should be able to just press it into place. It has just enough friction from that stem to hold it on, but not enough to keep it into place after you put it on. It's not threaded at all. So it just works as a button. It's a good replacement button. Now, with the idea of maybe your button is just completely missing and still has a hole in the inside of it, this other button can be used along with a screw that you might affix down into the well of this button with a little bit of epoxy. And I'll put the screw up in the description later as far as the screw details go. After you put the screw in, it'll probably look something like the original button, and you can use it to screw it down inside. However, some people have taken these reset buttons and have just pried them off. Oh, what's that? A little piece from my button, I think. Okay. And I've just pried them off. And in doing so, they have pried them off with a screwdriver or a knife or something like that, and they've actually ripped the screw away from the top of the button. In those cases, you won't be able to use this style, so you'll either have to pry this out or you'll have to download and print this other style. You could put a bit of glue in the top, just enough to hold it on, not enough to actually keep it in place for very long. So I just take that, push it in onto the top, maybe with glue, maybe without. Mine sort of has enough friction around the edge just to hold it in place. So you may not decide to put any glue in it at all. But that's an alternate way you can use this if you find that the screw from this piece is broken off and is still stuck inside the stem, the actuator stem of your reset switch. In any case, after you're done putting the new buttons on, they should be usable as far as this goes. Or you could just screw the originals back into place. Put the originals back into place if you feel like it. That's it for this video. Have fun out there in Vectrex land.